Intro. The Florida Project is a movie that shows the desperation of what happens when people live in poverty. It shows the struggles that people have when they can't get by with anything that they have. Poverty is real, and usually when you look at it, in most movies, it's never really shown what's done in poverty. The sudden shift that takes people over when they have nothing, because that's what happens in the real world. In the real world of poverty, that happens a lot. But first, to know the nothing that's being talked about, we need to know the story of the film so we know the characters and stuff and their situation. We start off by seeing a 6-year-old child. Mooney was her mother, Haley. Haley is your typical single mother living in a motel near Disney World with her kid. But she doesn't have to be around Mooney too much. That's why she has her friends, Scooty and Dickie, who are also children. They're like all living in the same motel area. Dickie lives at the Futureland Inn, but after hanging out with Mooney and Scooty, he kind of gets grounded because they spat on the car. This is where Jancy is met, who lives with the spat on car lady, Stacy. So anyways, Haley loses her job as a stripper. Boo womp! Boo womp! That's too bad. You lost your job. You have to get a new one. But since you have no job and being a stripper is a job, so you get money, her TANF benefits that she gets are affected. This means to get food, she has to rely on Ashley, who is Scooty's waitress mother, who gives them free food. So how do you get money if you can't be a stripper and you are in poverty? You sell handmade perfumes near the rich people hotels. As she does this, Mooney and Scooty show Jancy around the area, like a tour on how to survive in the world, like begging for ice cream. Bobby is the one who usually gets this annoyance, since he's the manager. But, he's kind. He's a kind little manager. He's one of the good ones. He has to make sure the premises are safe by getting rid of drug dealers and thugs and things like that. Sometimes his son Jack helps, but that's just what you do if you're related to a manager. By the way, now Dickie is gone. He's in the big New Orleans now. Hard to believe, but a fire is started later on by Scooty in a condominium that's abandoned, as like all of them are, but the fire is started. So now Scooty can't hang out with Mooney or Jancy because of Ashley, who also hates Haley as well in that equation. So Haley starts, let's just put it, selling her body online, aka she's an online prostitute. She makes sure Mooney doesn't see it by hiding her in the bathroom whenever somebody comes over. Money is money, and you need it. She also steals a Disney pass from a client, which gets them angry, and they come back to the motel, and then they're like, bang, bang, bang. They bang on the door, and they're like, give it back. And later they're kicked out by Bobby. Bobby says, hey, can you not bring random people into this place? I needed to keep it safe. So he also threatens to evict her if she keeps doing what she's doing. And, so in a fit of being desperate, she asks Ashley for money, and she says no, but also threatens to kill Haley if Scooty ever saw her prostitution. So Haley beats her senselessly, mind you, senselessly in front of Scooty, her child. Then, you'll never guess, but DCF comes to her door to ask about how they live. Haley and Mooney answer separately, but afterwards Haley cleans up her act. Unlucky for her, after she and Mooney have a fancy dinner at a motel by scamming it to other people, like passing the bill along. Double it or give it to somebody else. And the DCF has evidence of, Haley's prostitution online and is going to take Mooney away now. So Mooney doesn't know what's happening. And so she says goodbye to Scooty, but then also to Jancy. But Jancy sees how sad Mooney is as an empath, And so they run away to Disney World, which, just across the street from the inn. Happiness is achieved. Roll the credits because they're at Disneyland now. So when people are in poverty, they can't do the same things a lot of other people do because you don't have the money when you're poor. You don't have a lot of flexibility, and you just don't, and that's a limiting factor in the life of people stuck in that position. You have money, you get money, but you lose that money. Life's expensive. It's expensive to buy a house. It's expensive to even get something like healthcare, or if you're a parent, to get childcare. That takes up a majority of your monthly payments. So, you have to calculate differently. So first off, let's put ourselves in the place of somebody like Haley in the movie and cut the costs that we really don't need. But we need to save money. So let's just, cut some costs so that we can have money. We can budget. So since we don't know how much a stripper makes, let's just look at broad ideas. Okay, so first, you need a place to live. Obviously, if in your budget, rent or your mortgage payment if you're lucky. You don't need a house or maybe an apartment, so a motel or anything that's cheap would be fine. So doing a good job at that part in the movie. And it's the closest you can get to have not having a place as you can get. So, gambling a bit because motels are kind of risky like that. Second, let's look at healthcare. If you never go to the hospital, do you really need it? That's the mentality you just need. So let's just cut that cost entirely because, who needs it? Just be really safe. Just don't get hurt and that'll be fine. So cut that cost, but, be careful. Put an asterisk next to it. Third is childcare. You don't need a nanny or someone to watch your child, because you live at a motel. They have friends. Thug it out. That saves some costs, and public school is an option, so that saves a lot of costs. AKA, that makes it go straight down to zero. So our cost-cutting service is pretty good so far. So what does that lead to pay for in a minimalist nothing lifestyle? Just rent and food and all the utilities. The bare basics, which could probably be covered with a regular paycheck, considering in Haley's shoes, she's a stripper, so the pay isn't that great. Let's be honest. Strippers aren't millionaires over here. They're not buying houses. Let's say a good amount is made. Let's say about $200 a week. That's $800 a month to spend, but since TANF helps people out by kind of letting them and their kids eat, so because it's kind of like a benefit. It's like, whoa, you're kind of in poverty, so we'll help you out. We'll lift your boat a little bit. It holds value. That $800 holds a little bit of value when you have those benefits. But since a minimalist lifestyle is given, there isn't that much that can be done or experienced. There's no extra stuff given. You're just doing what's needed. You eat whatever you can afford, and you live wherever you can afford to, because that's the lifestyle. No extras given also means that your child has to be entertained by two things: the free channels you get on TV, or by going outside with friends, because those two options are free. I mean, it doesn't cost money to go outside, does it? Mooney does mainly the second one in the movie, as she and her friends kind of just go around the motel since she has friends there. And that kind of helps her get stuff and, do stuff. It shows her a world that most people usually don't know, and that's because of what they have in life compared to her. That being a world of begging and a world of knowing everything you get when you get it. Because you worked harder for it since you have nothing. That's why Mooney can teach Jancy things like begging for ice cream, because Even though, to most people, ice cream is a basic food item, it's not for them because that's kind of an extra. That's like a treat for them because you're not guaranteed it. It's like you're also getting it for free because you begged. It's like you have to do more to get it. Most people in the inn don't really have a lot of money. That's why they're in an inn outside of Disney World, which, when you look at it, it kind of just shows the irony in where they are, like, in where they're living, basically. They're next to Disney World, which is also the place that's all about dreams and, just about being happy, which is very dichotomized compared to where they're located in the rundown, low-income inn. They're very close to their dreams, but guess what? Bam! They can't get to them because of that little barrier. It's like an invisible wall. That barrier is known as being poor. You can't be poor in a world where you don't have anything to help you, because then your life is more screwed. That's just poverty. Haley and Mooney are the typical family that the social safety net is supposed to catch. Though mainly Haley are like the families that are on the brink of collapse and use this for their good to just try to survive. Some people are just bound to need more saving. That's just how it is. Not every poverty-stricken person is equal. To talk about people who need more saving, we need to also look at the idea of constant poverty. Poverty that doesn't go away, no matter how much poverty spray you put on it, or whatever you use to get rid of poverty. It doesn't die, it just stays there, and it's for a lot of reasons that are always studied. You can try to get a higher paying job to get out of it, but sometimes that pesky corporate ladder just can't be climbed. There's no solution when that's what happens. You just can't climb it. It's just, bam. You can't do it because sometimes you're just limited like that for many reasons. Poverty also leads people to not look that great and not be able to afford things like these fancy suits and these billionaire, millionaire, oligarch looking outfits. Or anything that boosts their appearance, basically. You can't look smacks when you're a brokey, basically, to put it in simple layman's modern terms. So, of course, when you can't afford to look good, it's hard to get a job, obviously. So, the standards of jobs you start looking for start to fall and fall until they reach rock bottom, basically, until you reach whatever gets you, to pay the bills. Those aren't really the dead-end jobs, they're just the filler-end jobs, many jobs, like the ones in the movie. Haley acts as one of these filler-end jobs. Have you ever wondered why a stripper actually wants to be a stripper? It's not because they want to strip for people. It's just because all of those non-options they have. They just strip because that's what they need to do for money. It's all performative. If you've ever seen or been to a strip club and see all the performative strippers, that's what they are. You're a walking wallet for them. You're $1 bills unless you're going to make it hail. Because they just see you for money. That's how they survive. So that's how they have to see the world. What they can get versus what they can't get. This is one of the reasons why Haley just thinks she can ask Ashley for money when she needs help. Because sometimes people seem like walking wallets. And that's just how people view other people. Even if they are their friends or whatnot. Even if they're close. She also has this false sense of reality of what friends are, but that's something that doesn't have to do with being broke. That has to do with the filler-end job she really has. This is another desperate thing that has to do with not having the supplies to survive. Haley just really needs to do anything to get them because she knows she has to get them and has a limited time to do that. So she just has to do anything to get these supplies, like utilities or tools or whatever she needs, basically. She needs that. She doesn't have that much. She needs to get money. That's also why she has Mooney, her child, help clean the room of all the stuff that she probably shouldn't be exposed to, or even know about at that age, because children shouldn't know about that, especially things like Haley's weed and smoking, all that stuff. I've never seen like a 6-year-old exposed to their mother's smoking patterns, TBH, but that's just me, personally. It's also this idea that Haley cares too much about Mooney. She kind of forgets to actually care for her like a child. She kind of treats Mooney like she's a full-grown adult when she's 6 years old. This is seen with how she leaves Mooney to do whatever she wants. Sure, this is because it's summer and she can't afford a babysitter, but she lets Mooney do whatever and just go around. It's weird for a 6-year-old to be able to do that because you never see that nowadays. You just don't, because people don't trust each other. If you walk on the street and you see a 6-year-old somewhere, they shouldn't be, you probably think, they probably shouldn't be there. You think that they're lost or something like that. That they need to go back to their parents or somewhere, wherever they came from. But Mooney is that 6-year-old child that's wandering around and doing a lot of things, surprisingly, for a 6-year-old, like being able to leave home alone and go get ice cream, go beg for food, basically, and just survive. Like it's the wilds. This lifestyle is the one that usually is more dangerous and less cautious, which doesn't work well with the saving costs to nothing mentality from before that most people in this situation follow. This is because Haley can't really watch Mooney. Shocker, just a little bit. But the whole point is that the adventures she has are also just the neglect of an actual parent being present in her life. And so she has to find things to do by herself. This shows how little time and kind of energy Haley has to do stuff like this that are kind of seen as basic, but, to some people aren't basic because they can't do it. Another thing that's shown is looking in the location, and as mentioned before, it's right by Disney World. And if you don't know, that's the one in Florida. It's a dream spot for a lot of people, so it shows how close they are, that they're not really living their dream life. But, they're close, but not close in terms of where they are. Poor, broke people next to a magical kingdom where all the rich people can go for vacation and have fun and live life, be happy. Seems like there's a division between that. People struggle to survive outside a kingdom made by a giant corporation, and there's no way to see that for themselves unless they sneak their way in. It doesn't make sense. The end of the movie really also encapsulates that feeling of seeing a dream for the first time, as Mooney is taken to the Magic Kingdom. Sure, it is forced. And I mean heavily forced at the end. But, it's a way to show that you shouldn't be limited down by your circumstances. Your circumstances shouldn't be what limit what you can do. You should be able to break through that barrier between you and someone else and do all the things they can. Circumstances shouldn't be permanent. They should be temporary at best. And they should be able to be broken through. That's the whole mentality of it. To get into circumstances, we need to know about this thing called the system. The system that makes people know their place and know where in society they will end up. This is something people grow into, and it's often called reality, since dreaming is thinking you can escape. Haley tries to protect Mooney from the system and from reality by trying to give her the best reality and the magical memories parents try to give their kids. The way this is done isn't the best way, since she's not a mature person. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know if Haley was ready to be a parent in the movie because of this immaturity in her young age. It's all the factors that, add up to it. Like, you're not a mature parent. I'm gonna be honest. Whoa, shocker. It's not that big of a shocker when you watch the movie. But you can't hide from the system. You can only delay the moment that you enter it. And that's what the movie's about. Poverty is something nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to be in. So having a magical childhood is what people want to remember. People want to have memories that they enjoy looking back on. They don't want to give their kids bad memories that they're like, well, I guess I had a bad childhood. Nobody says that. Nobody says, like, I'm going to give my kid a bad childhood. They want to give them memories that they can remember, because the system is overall what kind of put Haley and Mooney in this situation. When it comes to music, there's not a lot of real music like the orchestras and all that, but there are the film student-esque copyrighted songs that play throughout the movie. The montage songs, or just like they're played in the background in a way. The soundtrack has good songs, but it's very basic in a way, which isn't bad, it's just how it can be described. It's not really filler songs, but they're montage songs. They may seem like the same thing, but they aren't. Trust me, Brozempic. But it makes sense that this movie didn't have a big soundtrack because it only had a $2 million budget and it only made $11.3 million in the box office. So it's kind of a small movie. So let's see if the reviews for the movie are good, since that's how you can tell if an indie movie's successful or not. On IMDb, it has a 7.6 out of 10, which, good for IMDb standards. And the movie has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie was received really well on release. It also got a 4.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which is above the average indie film score. It got a 92 on Metacritic, so the high scores continue there. And overall, the movie was seen as a big success in terms of review scores. Though, the one thing I find weird is the release date. Of course, I'm not in the Sun Belt. I'm going to admit it. I'm not in the Sun Belt, so it's weird seeing a movie like this, which feels like a summer movie because of the vibe and the colors and all that, come out in October, since it's usually cooler in terms of weather because it's fall. But that's just like a little thing. They probably needed to fit it in somewhere in that big corporation release schedule. But it got good reviews. It's just weird that the release date was like that. Overall, The Florida Project is a movie that shows the idea of poverty in a realistic way, but also deals with the idea of losing the magic of childhood by realizing you're in a state of poverty. It's a good movie. I won't lie. The only problem I had with it, I'm going to be honest, is the ending. Because it felt rushed and it felt weird. It felt jarring in a way. I, personally, would give the movie an 8.5 out of 10. If you have your thoughts and you want to comment them down below, you could, because that's your First Amendment right. But that's about it. So if you want to, you could like and subscribe. Pretty please.